The chandeliers at the Golden Fork, they always seem to mock me. Their crystal gleam, a constant reminder of the hollow shine of my own life. I'm Ludwig, just a regular guy trying to make sense of a world that's gone completely digital. Tonight, I witnessed something that shook me to my core, something that made me question everything I thought I knew about fame, respect, and the fleeting nature of internet glory. It started with a quiet dinner, a steak, a book of quotes, and then the storm arrived. Madison Blake, or Maddie Lux. Life as her millions of followers knew her burst through the doors like a hurricane, her designer jacket a flag of entitlement. Her voice, amplified by her live stream, echoed through the restaurant, shattering the serene atmosphere. Oh my God, you guys won't believe where I am right now. This place is like totally exclusive. She paused, her eyes scanning the room, landing on Chuck Norris, sitting quietly in a corner. I watched, a silent observer, as Madison's perfectly contoured face twisted into a scowl. Gee, who let him in here? This is supposed to be a luxury restaurant. Her words, sharp and dismissive, hung in the air, a cruel judgment on a man who simply wanted a quiet meal. Chuck, in his simple denim shirt and jeans, remained unfazed, taking a slow sip of his iced tea. Madison, unable to ignore Chuck's presence in her shot, strutted over to his table, her phones at the ready. "Excuse me," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Would you mind moving to another table? You're kind of ruining the ambiance of my shoot." Chuck looked up, his eyes holding a glimmer of amusement. "I'm trying to create content here," she continued, her tone growing sharper. "Do you even know what that means? Do you know who I am?" Chuck set down his glass. "No, ma'am, I can't say that I do." "I'm Madison Blake. I have 2 million followers," she practically shouted, waving her phone like a weapon. "I make more money in a month than you probably see in a year." The restaurant went silent. Every eye was on them. I felt a knot of anxiety tighten in my stomach. This was going to get ugly. Chuck pulled out his own phone. 2 million, you say? That's impressive. He showed her his screen. "Looks like I have 2.2 million followers myself, so I think you're 200,000 shy." Madison's face drained of color. She snatched the phone, her hands trembling, tears of rage welling up in her eyes. The verified Chuck Norris account stared back at her, a stark reminder of her own insignificance. "How about that table?" Chuck said, standing up with his plate. "You're right, I should move." And before Madison could react, he calmly walked over and sat down at her table. "Problem solved," he said, cutting into his steak. "Now I'm not in your background anymore." The look on Madison's face was pure, unadulterated fury. "How dare you!" she screamed, her voice rising to a pitch that made the wine glasses tremble. "This is my table. Do you have any idea how much I paid for this specific spot?" Chuck just continued eating, seemingly entertained by her escalating rage. "Actually," he said between bites, "I believe it's the restaurant's table." Madison whipped out both phones, her fingers trembling with rage. "Oh, my followers are going to love this. I'm going live right now to show everyone how this old man in denim is harassing me." But the comments weren't what she expected. "Wait, is that Chuck Norris?" "OMG, Madison, stop. Show some respect." "Chuck Norris is a legend." Madison's face flushed crimson. "Nobody even knows who you are anymore," she snapped at Chuck. "You're just some outdated has-been." "Yet here you are," Chuck replied calmly, "getting upset over a has-been with more followers than you." That did it. Madison stormed toward the manager's office, her designer heels clicking like angry punctuation marks. "Manager, I demand to speak to your manager right now. I'm going to have you thrown out," she yelled back at Chuck. And then I'm going to destroy this place's reputation. One post from me and this restaurant is done. Chuck took another bite of his steak. You might want to check those follower counts again before making threats, he called after her. Just saying. I watched, my heart pounding in my chest. This wasn't just a dinner anymore. It was a spectacle, a clash of titans, a battle between old school values and new age entitlement. Madison burst into the manager's office. Mr. Thompson, there's a man out there who needs to be removed immediately. But as she turned to lead the manager to Chuck's table, she noticed something strange. Mr. Thompson had stopped dead in his tracks, his eyes wide with recognition. Is that Chuck Norris?" The manager's voice was filled with awe. "Oh, not you two." Madison rolled her eyes. "He's just some old guy in denim." "Just some old guy." Mr. Thompson's face turned serious. "Miss Blake, that man is an American icon. While you're busy making videos about overpriced coffee and designer handbags, Chuck Norris has spent decades inspiring millions, supporting countless charities, and embodying the values that made this country great." Madison tried to interrupt, but the manager wasn't finished. "You know what's truly ironic?" he continued, his voice rising with passion. "You came in here flashing your designer clothes and follower count, looking down on a man who has more real influence in his little finger than most people achieve in a lifetime. Money can't buy class, Miss Blake, and followers don't equal respect." The restaurant was completely silent. Everyone was watching, their phones recording every moment. But I'm a paying customer," Madison stammered, tears of humiliation starting to form. "Not anymore," Mr. Thompson said firmly. "The Golden Fork reserves the right to refuse service to anyone who disrespects our guests. I'm going to have to ask you to leave." "You can't do this to me. I'll ruin you. You'll what?" Chuck's voice carried across the restaurant as he stood up. "Post about it to your 2 million followers? I might know 400,000 people who disagree with your take." The entire restaurant erupted in applause and laughter. Madison's face turned bright red as she realized her live stream was still running, capturing every moment of her humiliation. "This isn't over," she shouted, grabbing her designer bags. "You'll regret this, all of you." But as she stormed toward the exit, Chuck's calm voice followed her. "The only regret here is that someone with so much influence never learned the meaning of respect." The door slammed behind her, leaving a moment of perfect silence. Then the restaurant erupted in cheers and applause. Chuck, ever humble, raised his glass in a subtle toast and returned to his dinner. But the real show was happening online. Madison's own live stream had become a viral sensation, just not in the way she intended. The manager approached Chuck's table, his original table, with a mix of respect and amusement. "Mr. Norris, sir, your meal is on the house tonight." Chuck shook his head with a smile. "No need for that, but I would appreciate my usual table back," he said, standing up from Madison's abandoned content corner. As Chuck returned to his quiet corner, his phone buzzed. The sponsor who was supposed to work with Madison had already reached out to him instead, but Chuck just chuckled and put his phone away. He didn't handle the situation for clout or contracts. He did it because sometimes people need to learn that respect isn't measured in followers or dollars. Outside, through the restaurant's windows, we could see Madison having a full meltdown on the sidewalk, still trying to salvage her dignity by recording an angry rant for her followers. But even she knew it was too late. The damage was done. Hours later, Madison posted what she called an apology video, but it only made things worse. Sitting in her luxury car, wearing even more expensive designer clothes than before, she started her video. "So, I guess I should address what happened at the Golden Fork." She rolled her eyes, checking her reflection in her phone. First of all, I was literally attacked by these boomers who don't understand how content creation works. And yes, that includes their precious Chuck Norris. She flipped her hair, clearly more concerned with how she looked than showing any genuine remorse. And for everyone saying I should respect my elders or whatever, hello, this is 2025. Nobody cares about some old action movies anymore. I make more in one sponsored post than he probably made in his whole career. But it got worse. She continued. And honestly, all these Chuck Norris fans in my comments, you're just jealous of my success. I worked hard for my followers. Do you know how many filters I had to test to find my perfect aesthetic? How many hours I spent learning the latest TikTok dances? Then came the final nail in her coffin. So yeah, if that's your idea of a legend, keep it. I'd rather be canceled than pretend to respect someone just because they're famous from like 100 years ago or whatever. And that restaurant, trust me, once I'm done with my expose video about their horrible treatment of content creators, she never finished that sentence because her phone rang. It was her agent. The look on her face said it all as she learned that 3 more major brands had dropped her and her premium influencer network had suspended her membership. Back at the Golden Fork, Chuck finished his meal in peace, leaving behind not just a generous tip, but also a lesson about the difference between influence and character that the staff would never forget. Before leaving, he signed a quote into the restaurant's guest book. True influence isn't measured by followers, but by the lives you touch with respect and kindness. As he stepped out into the Texas evening, his phone buzzed one last time. It was a notification that his follower count had jumped to 2.4 million, not that he was counting. A young waiter rushed out after him. "Sir, what should we say if she tries to come back?" Chuck turned with that signature smile. "Tell her what my mother always said. Manners are free, but their value is priceless." And that, my friends, is how Chuck Norris taught us all that in a world obsessed with followers, it's more important to follow your principles. I sat there, long after everyone had left, the echoes of the night's events still ringing in my ears. The Golden Fork, once a symbol of superficial luxury, now held a deeper meaning. It was a place where real values had triumphed over fleeting fame, where respect had silenced entitlement. Madison's fall was swift and brutal. Her online empire crumbled, her sponsors deserted her, and her followers turned against her. The digital world, which had once been her playground, now became her prison. She was trapped in a cycle of negativity, her attempts to salvage her reputation only digging her deeper. But something shifted within me. I wasn't just a spectator anymore. I was a witness to a profound lesson. I started to question my own obsession with the digital world, the constant scrolling, the endless pursuit of likes and validation. I realized that true connection, genuine respect, and lasting impact couldn't be measured in numbers. I decided to make a change. I started to disconnect, to spend more time in the real world, to engage with people face to face. I rediscovered the joy of simple conversations, the beauty of human connection without the filter of a screen. As for Madison, she became a cautionary tale, a symbol of the dangers of unchecked entitlement. Her name became synonymous with the fleeting nature of internet fame. Some would say she deserved it, others would feel a pang of pity. I felt a mixture of both. One day, I received a message from an unknown number. It was Madison. She had seen my posts, my reflections on the events at the Golden Fork. She wanted to meet. We met at a small coffee shop far from the glitz and glamour of her former life. She looked different, more subdued, more human. She spoke of her regrets, her shame, her newfound understanding of the values she had so carelessly dismissed. "I thought followers were everything," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I thought they defined me, but I was wrong. They're just numbers, empty and meaningless." I listened, not judging, not condemning. I saw a broken person struggling to rebuild her life, to find meaning beyond the digital facade. "What now?" I asked. She shrugged. "I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. I want to do something real, something meaningful." I smiled. "Then do it. Start small. Make a difference in one person's life. That's where true influence lies." She nodded, a flicker of hope in her eyes. "Thank you, Ludwig, for seeing me, not just my numbers." That was the last time I saw Madison. She disappeared from the public eye, leaving behind her old persona, her old life. Rumors circulated, whispers of her working at a homeless shelter, volunteering at a children's hospital. I didn't know if they were true, but I hoped they were. The Golden Fork became a local legend, a place where Chuck Norris had taught a valuable lesson. The guest book, with his signed quote, became a cherished artifact, a reminder of the night when respect triumphed over entitlement. And me, I continued my journey seeking true connections, embracing the real world and valuing the moments that truly mattered. I learned that influence wasn't about numbers, it was about impact. It was about the lives you touched, the hearts you moved, the difference you made. Years passed. I was walking down a busy city street when I saw her. She was older, her face etched with experience, but her eyes held a quiet strength. She was helping an elderly woman cross the street, her touch gentle, her smile genuine. I didn't approach her, didn't interrupt her moment of kindness. I just watched, a silent observer as she walked away, her steps purposeful, her presence radiating a quiet dignity. Had she found her redemption? Had she discovered the true meaning of influence? I didn't know, but I hoped she had. And in that moment, I realized that the story wasn't about her fall, but about her potential for rise. The story teaches us that true fulfillment lies not in the fleeting validation of the digital world, but in the genuine connections and meaningful actions of the real world. It reminds us that respect, kindness, and humility are the cornerstones of a life well lived, and that true influence is measured by the positive impact we have on others. Do you believe Madison found her redemption? Do you think she changed, or was it just another act? How do you think social media has shaped our understanding of influence and respect? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. What does influence mean to you?